Hey. Wonderful, wonderful Wednesday. Can you hear me now? Are my microphones on? Yes, I've got a different look. Tuning in from San Francisco today. Welcome to the Cold Calling Podcast, Season 3, Episode number 9. I'm your host, Larry Long Jr., CEO, that's Chief Energy Officer of LLJR Enterprises. The Cold Calling Podcast is sponsored by our good friends at Monster Connect, leveraging technology to deliver you with actual conversations. Yes, connect with 8 to 12 decision makers per hour. Now, our hope with this podcast is to provide insights, deep insights from sales reps, from sales leaders, from sales professionals to help you, yes, you, to understand and succeed in sales. We want to help you take your game to that next level. Now, this week's guest, welcome today, March the 6th. He's joining us from sunny South Florida. Through years of hard work and skill, he's created a company that manufactures license plate frames for some of the largest automotive retailers in the country, in the nation. He's built the company from scratch, zip, zero, zilch, through years of cold calling, and he'd like to help others, that's you, to do the same. He considers himself classically trained in sales and in cold calling, and he's been doing this for over 30 years. Let's give a warm cold calling podcast welcome to my friend, Mr. Fred Stangle. Welcome, Fred.
Hey, good morning, Larry. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
So great to see you on this wonderful, wonderful Wednesday. I'd like to get started with a segment I call Who, What, and Why. Who are you, Fred? What do you do? And why do you do it? Please tell us.
Absolutely. My name is Fred Stangle. I'm the co-founder of a company called Automotive Advertising Associates. And I am a traditional salesperson. I'm a very, very talented salesperson. And I built my business literally through cold calling. I mean, I cold call every single day. And I've been doing it for 30 years. And I love it. I mean, you talk to people from all over the country, and it is a skill, to break it. When you call them initially, they don't think they're just a voice on the phone, that we're all the same. And I love it. I've been doing it for many, many years, and I'm very proud of it. And I'm very proud of what we've done.
Wow. Congratulations and kudos. And Fred, you and I are having this conversation now because you cold called me. I said, oh my goodness, someone's going to cold call the Cold Calling Podcast, reach out and say, hey, you need to have me on your show. I'm curious because I think you were watching an episode, but walk me through what made you reach out and touch the Cold Calling Podcast to join as a guest.
I was actually. Well, I've been doing this a really long time, and I have a lot of theories and, feelings on what I do. And I don't remember who the guest was at that particular day, but I just felt like, whatever he had to say didn't really, you could tell he's never picked up a phone. You know what I mean? This is what I do every day, and I've developed a lot of theories over the years that I'm glad to share with you. His wife was out of town that particular night, and I couldn't sleep. And so I listened to your podcast. I thought it was kind of neat. And I was listening to it, and I said, God, this is, so different than what I believe in what I do. So I just figured I'd call you. That's what salespeople do. It's the ability to know that, that we're all the same. You know what I mean? I can call the CEO of the company, and we're the same. You know what I mean? He's no better than me. He might have a little more money than I do, but we're all the same. You know what I mean? It's that idea that it's how you manage fear is what defines a salesperson. There's so many people are afraid to pick up the phone. God, what if he hangs up on me? I get hung up on every day. It's okay. It doesn't bother me. You just say, well, we'll try him again in a week. You know what I mean? Maybe we'll be in a better mood. You know what I mean? Every prospect is different. Every call is different. I mean, I make mistakes every day. And I've been doing it 30 years. I mean, there's sometimes you have to go, God, why did I say that? I mean, I can, it's so ad lib. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's a thinking man's game, sales, and it's just ad libbed, and sometimes, you say something like, God, why did I say that? Or there's just so many things you can't control, anyway, but it happens to everyone.
I hear you loud and clear. And Fred, before we get into some of the theories, I'm curious. You piqued my curiosity. Before we get into some of your cold calling theories, I do want to ask you for this segment. I call it Spill the Tea. Spill the tea. Roll Tide. What does that mean to you? I did a little bit of research. What does Roll Tide mean to you? Spill the tea for us.
Oh my God. Well, I am an alumni of the University of Alabama. Roll Tide, means a lot to me. It's just, Nick Saban just retired, so who knows what's going to happen next. But I am an alumni. I'm very proud of the university. And, I hope they're proud of what I've done with my degree, over the years. But Roll Tide, roll, my friend.
I'm sure they are. Class of 1993. Love to see you representing. Funny story. I used to live in Tuscaloosa back in the day. Yes. And when I moved to Pennsylvania, they put me in speech classes. They said, Mr. and Mrs. Long, he talks too country. They said, how old are you, little Larry? I said, I'm 4. They said, 4 what? I said, I'm 4 years old. They said, he can't talk like that here. Wow. Well, Fred, I want to hear.
Yes.
Yeah. There was a VA medical center in Tuscaloosa, so I had a good old time. But let's talk about your theories around cold calling. I'm curious to know. Let's kick it off.
Yes.
What's the number one top of mind theory? I know you've shared that the way that you handle rejection, the way that you think on your feet, ad lib, freestyle, being able to roll with the punches, whatever comes your way. I'm curious, what's your number one cold calling theory today, 30 years down the road?
Oh my God, I have so many. It's hard to start. Well, my first theory is, I call it the rule of 7. There's actually 2 rules of 7. One is that your money doubles every 7 years. But the rule of 7 is that the rule of 7, Larry, is that if I contact a prospect 7 times and they don't buy, after the 7th contact, and a contact could be an email, it could be a phone call, it could be a letter. People undervalue letters today. They really do matter. Everyone thinks I'm going to send you an email and then they lose it. It's tied up in their 50 emails a day that they get, and then they can't find it. But a letter they can put on their desk with your card. You know what I mean? It's the old theory, but the rule of 7 is that if I contact you 7 times and you haven't bought from me after the 7th time, the probability is you're not going to. And that's an important point, because as a salesperson, all you have is your time. How you manage your time. You know what I'm saying? So I spend an hour a day calling people that probably aren't going to buy from me. Am I really using my time wisely? If he doesn't want to buy from me, that's okay. I'm not hurt. It's okay. Just go on to the next one. You know what I mean? Thank you for your time, Mr. Smith. Please give it. We'd love the opportunity to work with you, and then move on to the next one.
Oh,
that's all you can do. But it's how you manage your time that matters.
Oh, I love it. The rule of 7, how you manage your time. On to the next one. Now, Fred, you got me thinking. Through 30 years, I'm curious the evolution, because you just mentioned phone calls, emails, as well as snail mail. And I think some of our listeners out there might be saying snail mail in 2024. Does that still work? And I'm going to
It
stack
does.
questions. I know I'm not supposed to, but does snail mail still work? And what have you seen in terms of the shift of cold calling over the past 30 years?
Well, the shift is that everyone has this negative opinion of cold calling, and they shouldn't. And I think they have a negative opinion of cold calling because these companies call you with people from overseas who can't speak our language. I mean, because you have less than 1 minute to make a connection. If I call you up today, Larry, whenever I say you, I have 1 minute to make a connection with me. And what I mean by that is everyone has a script to some degree. I said the same thing for the most part every time I pick up the phone. But it's connecting it from, I'll give you an example. I spoke to a gentleman yesterday in Utah, okay, and it's snowing, out west. And so immediately, hey, did you guys get snow? You know, I, I'm in Miami, so it's a little bit different because most people across the country, are in colder climates. So it's
Yeah.
always it always elicits a good response. But this gentleman, hey, did you guys get snow? And he goes, God, it's snowing right now. I mean, it's the ability to transition from your, whatever it is that you said initially to, hey, we're equal. Let's talk. You know what I mean? And this is another one of my theories, by the way. I call it the win-win-win theory. When you make a sale, everyone wins. The client won because he bought something that hopefully solves whatever problem he had. The company won because they got additional revenue. And you win because you got a commission. It's a win-win-win. I mean, everyone is supposed to win. You know what I mean? There's different degrees of winning, but everyone won. And that's what sales are all about.
Win,
I
win,
mean,
win.
I've come up with so many stories over the years. But I call it. It's such a great feeling when you open a new account. I mean, I get the same feeling today, that I got 30 years ago. That someone who with a name on a piece of paper, you know, turned into a new client, a new friend, who hopefully will buy from me again. That's all you can ask.
I love it. Now, Fred, I'm curious, and curiosity killed the cat, but I believe curiosity helped the sales professional thrive and crush their goals. Now, you talked about the negative opinion of cold calling, and you mentioned
It's
the
true.
overseas folks, but I got to push back on you. My first experience with cold calling was making 150 cold calls per day to accounting firms. And even though I might have had a country accent from Tuscaloosa, there were still
Okay.
people that had a negative opinion of cold calling, regardless of how I spoke. Why do you think there's that perception that cold calling, picking up this phone, smiling and dialing is so bad? Like, where does that perception come from?
I think the perception came from the fact that the average person gets too many cold calls. And when I say too many cold calls, too many bad cold calls.
That's I like that.
Not necessarily too many cold calls, but too many badly done.
Fred,
Larry?
I think we broke the internet. You were a little bit laggy. I think I heard what you said. Not just too many cold calls, but too many bad cold calls. And what I would add, I'm gonna
Yes.
add a little bit of color. I think
Yes.
that
Yes.
the bad cold calls don't add value. They're not, they're just going, they haven't done any research, they don't know their stuff, and it's gimme, 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 gimme. Let me throw all the spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. Speaking of sticking and a sticking point, I'm curious, what are some of
Yes.
the top challenges that you faced when it came to cold calling and when it came to sales?
Well, the biggest challenge is making yourself do it. You know what I mean? I'm sorry, the cash register's open. Larry, can you hold on for 1 second?
Oh yeah, no
Hold
worries,
on for 1
no
second.
worries. Yep. We'll be right back, folks. We'll be right back.
Yeah.
And just
Thank
like
you.
what Fred
Thank you.
said, we've got to be able to improvise. And on this wonderful, wonderful Wednesday, who knows what curveballs are thrown our way. Welcome back, Fred. Hope all is well. So you were just talking about the biggest challenge is making yourself do it. Tell me more. I think that's call reluctance, that 500-pound phone, being afraid to pick it up and make the
Absolutely.
call.
Every salesperson has call reluctance at some point. You know, the newer salespeople, hey, when we started, here's a phone book. You know what I mean? Here's a phone book, make something happen. I mean, obviously, I don't really have phone books anymore, but at the time, here's a phone book, make something happen. And today, for instance, I buy lists of, who I sell to, which is car dealerships, and universities, and, just one by one, you just go down the list, But sales is the ability. I consider us kind of like actors in a way. You know what I'm saying? When I'm on the phone, I'm a different person than I am in real life. You know what I mean? I sound different. I'll give an example. I love radio. In fact, that was actually my original major in college. I wanted to be a disc jockey. I love radio. And I think when I'm on the phone, it's almost like you're a disc jockey in a sense. You know what I mean? You have you're projecting your great voice, in the hopes that you connect. I have a lot of clients I've had for years that I really, really like, that I've never ever met. But I really, really like. If we actually lived in the same city, we would probably do something together. You know what I mean? I think we're similar in our, in who we are as people. But my point is that, you're given the phone book and say, hey, make something happen. But most people don't know how to take the phone book and find who I should call. If I'm selling plumbing supplies, after I call every plumber in the city I live in, what do I do next? You know what I mean? Well, go to the next city, or someone else who uses plumbing supplies. You know what I'm saying? It's about thinking. You know what I mean? It's about using your mind. And I want to tell you something too, Larry, while I got you on the camera here. There are many ways to sell. You don't just have to cold call. I believe in cold calling. But, there's different other ways to do it. There's the networking way, which I've never done it myself, but it does work for some people. But you can't control that. I can control how many phone calls I make today. I can hopefully control how many leads I'm going to get today. I can control my activities. When you're relying on others to bring you leads, whether or not it happens or not is out of your control. I could take up someone I think is going to refer me business out to lunch every day for a year, right? So I had probably 250 lunches theoretically. Am I going to get a lead out of it? Hopefully, right? But there's no guarantee I'm going to get a lead out of it. If I make 150 phone calls today, am I very high? That at least I'm going to get at least one lead that hopefully eventually will purchase from me. It's about how you manage your time. And you said something interesting too, Larry. When you started cold calling, and by the way, the same thing to me, you got 200 dials every day. You know what I mean? You can leave when you need a Diet Coke or you have to use the restroom. You take a half an hour break somewhere along the way to eat. But, man, you're here. You're not going anywhere. You're putting on your little earpiece, and 1, 2, 3, And there's nothing wrong with that concept. But I realized about 6 months into it that it's not about how many dials you make, but how many quality conversations you have. And what I mean by that is If I cold call you today, Larry, and we somehow connect for a minute or two, right? That's a positive conversation. You might actually remember me when I call you back in a week or two. Hey, Larry, you remember me? Hey, it's Fred Stangle with blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? It's about connection. It's not about necessarily did I plow through 150 phone calls and talk to 10 people. You know what I'm saying? Um, it's not about that. It's about how many people I connected with. And that's what sales is about. How many
It
people I went
is.
from my little script, which is, a minute, and then we transitioned. You know what I mean? Hey, how are things with you? How was your February? Did you guys have a good February? You know what I mean? Whatever it is that you're talking about, or something you saw in the news today. I watch the Today Show every morning, for like 10 minutes while I'm making breakfast for everyone. And if something happened in Tacoma, Washington, hypothetically, and you happen to be talking to someone that day in Tacoma, Washington, you have something you could talk about. I have another theory, Larry, by the way. I'm going to tell you my theory. And
All right.
I formulated this one completely myself many, many years ago. A great salesperson knows a little something about everything, but in reality knows nothing at all. And what I mean by that is that you can have a conversation with anyone about anything, no matter where they are in the country. They could be in Alabama and have really strong Southern accents. They could be in New York or New Jersey and have really strong Eastern accents. They could be in Wyoming or Iowa somewhere. But it's about the ability to connect. But it's about making conversation. You know what I mean? I'll give you another example. When I
Hold
first
on,
started
hold on,
selling,
Fred. Hold on.
this is when I
Hold
was
that
in my early
example.
20s.
Fred, hold that
Yeah.
example. We'll get right
Yes.
back to it because I want to unpack for our viewers
Yes.
and our listeners that are tuning in right now. You shared a
Yeah,
lot of great
absolutely.
comments. You talked about being an actor and describing it similar to being a DJ, a disc jockey. You talked about the importance of
Yes.
relationships. You've got folks that you would be friends even though you've never met them in person. I really love how you talked about
Yes.
controlling the controllables. And then you talked about the quality of conversations, not the quantity, as well as about
Yes.
making true, genuine connections. Now, you gave us all the good, what we want. What I want to know is how. How do I build the relationship? How do I get the connection? How do I make sure that I'm able? What strategy? What can I actually do today to make sure that that happens?
Well, I think your question is that's up to you. You know what I mean? Only I can make myself pick up the phone. Larry, I can't tell you how many salespeople come in every morning, sit at their desk, and stare at the phone. Or they think of people internally they need to speak to about whatever, and they spend half the day doing that. That's nothing but someone stealing your sales time because you're stealing your sales time in that particular example. But it just irritates me that you are in control of your day. It is your job to put the sign on the door saying "Do not disturb." I'm on the phone trying to create opportunity. When I'm done, and everyone needs a break, I take a break every day at 11:30, and I go somewhere. I can go whatever errand my wife gave me. I go somewhere, and I buy another Diet Coke, which always makes me happy. And I compress, and then come back and do it again. You know what I mean? Everyone handles it differently, but it's a skill involved, and the self-discipline to sit there. And the minute you get there, you do it. I'll give you an example. My morning. I'm going to give you an example of my morning every single morning.
Yep.
Once everyone is off to school, you know what I mean? We clean up. We're ready to. I'm a Diet Coke addict, so I start my day with 2 Diet Cokes. So I go out to my nearest gas station and I buy my 2 Diet Cokes. So I come home and I do probably about a half an hour's worth of admin stuff, and then I begin my day. Literally, I'm on the phone till 5 o'clock. I'm usually done around 4:30. I can't I just can't talk anymore. My voice is gone, and my focus is gone. But during that time, there's nothing else going on in my life. You know what I mean? It's just a focus. I'm here to make cash, and the cash register is only open at 5 o'clock. You know what I'm saying? When it starts, when that clock starts ticking, it's only open to 5. It's up to you what you do during that time period. To ultimately, come up with a new account. I have another saying too, by the way.
Okay.
Someone is going to buy from me today. It's just not readily apparent to me who it is yet. You just got to have that mindset. Someone is going to buy from me. I just don't know who it is yet. You know what I mean? You can tell the closer you're getting. It's like you're fishing, and you got something on your line, and little by little you're reeling it in. You know what I mean? Until you get to that point where he says, "Yes, Mr. Stangle, let's work together. I want to buy whatever it is that you're selling." You know what I'm saying? I mean, whatever that line is where he feels comfortable with you and he trusts you, that's when he's going to say yes. Him or her. That's when they're going to say yes.
I love it. I love it. And Fred, I love how you talk about the time management aspect, controlling your day or your day controlling you. I also like how you threw out the health tip, the healthy breakfast of champions, 2 Diet Cokes to start off every day.
I love that.
A break. I'm messing with you. A break at 11:30.
I love Diet Coke.
Yes, and then having that mindset that someone is going to buy from you today, just not readily apparent. I'm curious because you start off your day with the admin time. What does your preparation look like going into a call? I want to know what's your prep look like, and then what's your follow through on the back end? Do you have a process for preparing and a process for following up?
Well, it depends on. I use I use ACT. As a salesperson, I have over 1,400 leads now, and every lead I input into ACT because I'm not the most incredibly organized person that ever walked the face of the earth. So if I put them in ACT, I won't lose a name because, and I got to tell you something too. I am not. I'm a pretty frugal person. And I actually pay for them to back it up too.
Wow.
So God forbid something happens to my laptop, my leads are safe. Because I couldn't. I apologize. I think I lost you there for a minute. I apologize, Larry. But
you broke the internet. It's okay. We're playing the mannequin challenge, but I hear you. So they back up your leads.
They back up my leads because, that is my most valuable asset. It's the leads that I spent years and years creating. I couldn't even tell you a fifth of them by name. You know what I mean? You just go page by page. Oh, I remember him. Let me talk to him. You know what I mean? Or I don't really remember this guy, but let's call him again. And sometimes I'm starting over. You know what I mean? Where I took too long to call him back and I'm starting over again. Or sometimes, God, I forgot that guy. Let me call him right now. And I have to tell you, I think the database really does work. You know what I mean? Because I'm always adding to it. Sometimes I'm unfortunately subtracting. If there's a name on it that you don't think he's ever going to buy, then you're wasting your time and you just delete them. And I know it hurts because you just lost a slot. You went backwards in the number of leads, but what's the point of keeping him if he's not going to buy from you? I mean, you're just wasting your time. And that's a hard concept, because you want everyone to buy from you. You know what I mean? Everyone you want to be your client.
Yeah, we want to help everyone.
I want to help everyone.
That's right. That's right. I love that.
And
Fred,
anyways,
I want to dig into the meat. Let's get into the meat. Give it to me straight.
Yes, sir.
What are the qualities? Let's get into the qualities of a good cold call professional? What does that look like? What qualities do they have?
Oh, focus. Focus is the greatest quality of all. You know, the ability to come in and you know what you have to do, and then to do it. You know that you're not going to let yourself get distracted. First off, there's a skill to selling. You know, there's an old adage: are you born a salesperson, or is it something that you just learn over time? And I actually think it's both. I think there's certain personality traits that you are born with, and the skill itself, you know, it's worked on over time and refined. So you know, the more you do it, the better you sound. Um, but to answer your question, it's just about focus. You know, the ability to come in there and no matter what's going on in your life, no matter what's going on in the world, to sit there and smile and dial. You know, I mean, that's what I do every day.
I love it. I love it. I'm curious, what's your most proud success story from cold calling? I know that over 30 years you've got a ton, but give me the one most memorable success story you've had.
Oh my God, that's a hard one. That's a hard one, Larry. You know, because I'm proud of each one of them. You know, some were harder than others. You know, every now and then you get lucky and someone will buy from you after two calls. Some, you know, take years. You know, I got an account last year. I've been calling the gentleman for 6 years, and he finally said yes. You know, it's constantly being in front of them. You know, I'll give you an example. My company, we do constant contacts too. I have to tell you, I'm not Mr. Computer, but I do a constant contact, and it's about once a month. And we have about 7,500 email addresses. And you'd be amazed. You know, I usually get at least one new account every time I do it, or someone who saw it, then a week later buys from us. You know what I mean? And they see the logo, they see the name of the company, and somehow it, you know, refreshes their memory. And it does work. It does work.
Oh, I love to hear that. Love to hear that. From what you're seeing, what does the future look like? And let's not, you've already seen 30 years, but let's say over the next 5 years, what shifts do you expect when it comes to cold calling?
Well, I think the shift is that too many salespeople communicate with email. That's the first mistake right there. You know, is that instead of connecting with you on the telephone, knowing, hey, I'm a human being, you know, I'm a person, I'm going to send you an email. Hey, Mr. Smith, we work with other companies that do whatever it is that you do. You know, I love, you know, if I was reading that, I'd delete that in 2 seconds. You wanted to work with me, you should have called me. You know what I'm saying? Why would you send me an unsolicited email? I mean, it's because it goes back again to that adage that people have a negative opinion of cold call, and that's really what it is. Like there's something wrong with what we do, and there's not. This is the oldest way to sell, and it's the most successful way to sell if you know how to do it right, and it is a skill. It really is. But the people going into sales today, they think there's something wrong with cold call. You know what I mean? I'm gonna LinkedIn you. In fact, my wife does that all the time, but she's gonna LinkedIn someone before she picks up the phone. That's so ridiculous. If you want to work with them, pick up the phone and say, "Hi, I'm Mr. Blah blah blah. You know, I'm Fred Stangle with XYZ. You know, whatever it is, we can whatever issue you're having, we'll try to figure it out." You know what I'm saying? It's the interpersonal skill that we're the same. You know what I'm saying? Whatever it is, we're the same. You know, we're in different parts of the country, but we're still the same.
Fred, I love that. And I love to hear the counterpoint, even between you and your wife. So, Monster Connect, the sponsor of this podcast, is all about
Yes,
getting
yes, sir.
conversations and connections. Because, as you said,
Yes,
picking up that phone and having a conversation is critical and key. And as the world changes, we are seeing some shifts to the calls incorporated with emails, incorporated with LinkedIn,
sure.
incorporated with referrals and snail mail,
I
as you talked
definitely.
about. I love it. What's the best
Yeah,
piece of cold calling advice you've received? And what's the best piece of cold calling advice you'd give to someone right now?
that's a tough question, Larry. That was a very difficult question. The best advice I can give is just be yourself. I mean, people buy from people they like. You know what I mean? Be yourself. You're a human. I make mistakes. You make mistakes. We're all the same. You know what I mean? But I'll give you an example. I think the problem with most salespeople today is if I'm calling the CEO, you're a little bit scared because he's here and I'm here. You know what I mean? I don't know if you can see that. He's here, I'm here. We're not the same, but we are. We are the same. And if you have that mindset, you can call anyone. You could sell anyone. You know, I'm sure I know you know the theories of top down selling versus bottom up selling. If I call the CEO, he's going to put me in touch with whoever I need to speak to, theoretically. Even though he's not really actively involved in whatever it is that I do, we're bottom up. I start at the bottom and he'll refer me to the right person. Either way works. It's just really up to whatever you feel more comfortable with. But the point I'm making is this is what I'm trying to say. We're the same. And you have to believe that you're the same. We are the same. We do different things. We live in different parts of the country, but we're the same. You might be the CEO. Well, hey, I'm the CEO of my company. You know what I mean? We're the same. You know, we're exactly the same. And that's the attitude you have to have. Someone is going to buy from you. The more leads you get, the greater probability you're going to make a sale. And can I say something else, Larry? Not
Yeah.
just getting leads, but continual follow up makes a difference. I can get a lead a month ago, but if I don't call them again, what's the point of it? You know what I mean? To fill up a screen on my my ACT program. What's the point? If I'm not going to follow up, why did I call them initially? You know what I mean? I'm shooting myself in the foot. If he says, call me in 2 weeks, or I made a note, call this gentleman in 2 weeks, and I don't, for whatever reason, then I shot myself in the foot. There's no one, he didn't buy from me, not because what I have to sell doesn't make sense. It's because I didn't do a good job. I didn't do a good job of explaining who I am. I didn't do a good job of explaining whatever it is I'm selling, how it will help him, whatever issue or problem he has. You know what I mean? We never got to the point of negotiating, which normally is always involved there somewhere along the way, because price does matter. You know what I mean? It's not the
Yeah.
overriding principle, the overriding decision point, but it does matter. You know what I mean? There's that whole theory. Don't worry about price. You know, they're buying me. They're buying Fred Stangle. I am the product. I'm sure you've heard that theory. But price does matter.
Yeah.
It's not the overriding decision point, but it does factor into the decision. And that is
Oh,
an important point.
I love it. I love it. And Fred, as we start to land the plane, I want to encourage folks to connect with Fred. You can connect with him via LinkedIn or via his email, which you should see on the ticker. For those folks that are just listening in and not viewing us, Fred Stangle, Stangle. And you can reach Fred at fstangle at Automotive Advertising Association.com. Boy, that is an amazing. I love how your email address, it's the name of your company. Now, Fred, I'm going to wrap up with this. We're going to talk about legacy. As you look
Yes.
back on your
Yes.
storied 30 plus year career, what do you hope your legacy will be in the world of cold calling within the automotive industry? What do you hope that legacy will be etched in stone as?
Well, I think my legacy is hopefully to my children that you can do anything. Nothing's holding you back. Only I'm holding myself back. I mean, I'm a great example. I knew nothing about license plate frames when I started my business years and years ago. Absolutely, I just thought it was a neat idea, but I knew almost nothing about it. And look what I've created. It's that idea that I want my children to have. That look, you can do the same. Whatever it is that you decide to do when you finish college, that you could do it too. Anyone could do it if they have focus. And drive. And okay with the word no. Mr. Stangle, we just don't have the funding today to do whatever it is that, no problem. Just keep us in mind. You call me in a month. Larry?
Yes,
Larry?
yes. I
I'm
love
sorry,
it.
I think
I'm
we cut
here.
off there for a
Legacy.
minute. My legacy is I'm trying to instill in my children that they can do anything. And that's important. The understanding that, hey, I can conquer the world. I don't just have to work at the bank for the next 50 years, or work wherever. You know what I'm saying? The ability to say, look, I'm different. I'm going to create my own legacy. You know, just because my father did X doesn't necessarily mean I have to do X. You know what I mean? My children probably won't be commission salespeople, and that's okay. You know what I mean? I'm not hurt. I want them to be happy, whatever they choose. My son loves basketball. My son actually played college basketball, but he loves basketball. I don't. You know what I mean? Everyone's different. You know what I'm saying? I mean, everyone. I want them to be their own person. Is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, and I hear it loud and clear that anything is possible. How did you get into the license plate frames industry? How does that happen? Fred, can you hear me? Fred, are you
Yes,
there?
yes, sir. Yes, I can.
How did you how did
Yes,
you
yes,
get
Larry.
into the license plate frames industry?
Oh my God, it's a great story. I used to own a vending machine company here in South Florida, and I used to service a lot of car dealerships. And there was one Friday, I was just miserable. My wife was mad at me. I just fired one of the guys driving one of our other trucks for stealing from me. Um, you know, I had a big loan payment due the next day. I was just really, really stressed. And Friday was our longest day because we did a lot of dealerships and they had to be ready going into the weekend. And I remember being on my truck one day and I was just really unhappy at that point in my life. And I looked around and there I saw a license plate frame. And I said, there's something I could sell on the telephone, that and there's 73,000 car dealerships in the country. If I can get 10% of them, I'm gonna have 7,300 accounts. I mean, it's just it's utilizing when I started my vending machine company years and years ago. I thought I'd be on a truck for a year, and then I could go back and build upon our business, by cold calling. But I never could afford to get off the truck. You know what I mean? The more you grew, the more debt you incurred, and it just financially, I was never able to get off the truck. You know, and it's funny that one particular Friday was a Friday afternoon, late Friday afternoon, and I just looked at a license plate frame. It happened to be this one car dealership, and it just occurred to me, that's what I want to do with the rest of my life.
Wow. That's an amazing journey right there. Thank you for sharing. And I heard you mention earlier that your ICP, your ideal customer profile, is car dealerships. And did I hear you mention universities as well? Did I hear that right? Fred,
Larry?
did I hear it right that you reach out to car dealerships and universities?
Yeah, and we sell the universities as well. We sell the automobile dealerships, RV dealership, universities all over the country.
Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. Fred, as we wrap, what's the last final thought you want to
Yes,
leave with our viewers that are watching us and our listeners that are tuning in? What's the final thought you want to leave with them?
the final thought is someone's going to buy from you today. It's up to you to make it happen. You know, only I control my day and my destiny. You know, make it happen. You know, use your time wisely so that at the end of the day, you can say, hey, I made my goal, whatever my goal was, I accomplished it. And then hopefully tomorrow you have a new one.
Wow. Wow. Fred, on behalf of Monster Connect, on behalf of our listeners, our viewers, we want to thank you for sharing your experience, your insights, your advice, and your theories, which are adding value to all of us. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Wishing you all the best continued success. And for everyone tuning in, I hope you listen to what Fred had to say, and now I encourage you to do something about it. Don't take the knowledge that you just were able to receive and not do anything with it. We got to go ahead and put it into action. So thank you so much for tuning in. Quick reminder to make sure you join us next Wednesday, March the 13th, same bat place, same bat time, 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 o'clock Pacific, as we welcome insurance agent Sherpa out of South Kagalaki, Mr. Tyler Woodall. We wish you well, happy selling, happy calling, and we'll see you next week. Bye for now. Thank you, Fred.